Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Chris Chan Quickie article, and we move on to one of the slightly more embarrassing and slightly less notorious exclamation marks in Chris's life, that being of Ivy O'Neill. So, well, what else can I say? Let's get started, shall we? Troll disclosure. This persona was created, appropriated, or otherwise used by trolls to manipulate Chris. Though this identity is contrived, the Quickie may treat it as though it were a real identity because it was to Chris. It's also funnier that way. She's gotta be true, she's gotta be pretty, and she's gotta be the sweetest thing in life. And her name be Ivy. Chris singing Bonnie Tyler karaoke. Should I also point out the fact that Chris didn't even know Bonnie Tyler was a woman when he was asked by Ivy to do this? Also, how old is Bonnie Tyler, like, today? She's got to be at least, like, what, late 60s, something like that now? I have no idea, but shows how old I'm getting. Ivy O'Neill was a troll who became Chris's one and only true sweetheart from March to May of 2009. The slew of work that escalated from her simple request to gain a video shout-out remains one of the craziest sagas in the Quick chronology. Ivy's saga is also seen as one of the most important to Christorians, as it provided insight into Chris's thought process, the saga being a scenario where Chris genuinely believed that his love quest was ending. Prologue. Something about Ivy brought out the crazy in Chris, at levels rarely seen before or ever since. The Ivy saga resulted in 3 Solitude specials, 4 music videos, a bunch of weird and creepy non-music videos, including the notorious Phantom video, a long-awaited tour of his house, a new Christian and the Hedgehog Boys album, the discovery of the Lost video, the emergence of Joshua Martinez and Rocky Shoemaker as troll obstacles. Images of Chris wearing the new Medallion of Fail and butt garments are unexpected changes in Chris's behaviour. Ivy was a redhead. Chris therefore lowered his standards slightly by allowing her to become a sweetheart, since women with red hair had been excluded, along with blacks and non-boyfriend-free girls. Chris did legitimately say that, by the way. Oh, by the way, Chris may say at later points that he likes black people, but he also went back. He also, in a recent live stream, even backtracked on this as well and literally said, "Not really, no." But we'll get to that. Timeline. March. The story of the Ivy saga came out when she wanted to surprise a friend by getting Chris to give a video shout-out. Posing as a member of Chris's fanbase, after a 30-minute grilling by Bob, she was able to speak to Chris. He was quiet and seemingly uninterested, but he agreed to the shout-out. In his captain's log of 18th of March 2009, Chris sent his greetings to Ivy and her friend Rachel. This was right at the height of the Emily fiasco, between the day Chris stood her up and the day the man in the pickle suit stole her away, so Ivy and Rachel were assumed by many observers to be codenames for Emily and her friend Stephanie. Ivy was dissatisfied with the quality of the shout-out and immediately called back to complain. Disappointed with Emily's no-show, Chris was now much more animated with Ivy and told her, "If things don't work out with Ivy, I would consider you my new sweetheart." Just saying that is crazy in itself, but let's keep going. The very next day, the 19th of March, after the Emily date and Clyde's cash hooker incident, Chris called Ivy. They discussed video games, art, and handwriting. She sent him a self-portrait along with a drawing of her personal Solitude character, Layla, and Chris shared with Ivy sexual fantasies involving Layla and Reginald. He told Ivy, "I love you." What follows was massive levels of creepiness not even the most hardened fans or trolls were ready for. "I'll be in your dreams. I love you." I mean, we will get to those videos like towards the end, so don't worry about that. Ivy was in the driver's seat now, and proved to be a muse like no other. Chris responded with some of his most complex work to date, Solitude Special 1, and its accompanying music video, Quick holding out for a hero. From this point onwards, Chris was utterly smitten with Ivy, and generally thought that this would be his lucky break and a chance to end his tenure as a virgin with rage. In Solitude Specials 2 and 3 are to be revealed. For the rest of March, Chris was a prolific video blogger. He doubled down on his creepy video messages and made a positive difference in the life of Ivy's insecure cousin Flora. He managed this even while pressed on another front of his arch nemesis. Indeed, most of Chris's videos directed against Clyde during these months were in fact prompted by Ivy. Things were moving quickly. But of course, a classy college girl like Ivy wasn't going to arrange a sleepover at the Chandlers' sight unseen. Her next request, a tour of the property, ignited a slow-forming but ultimately epic meltdown. His parents proceeded to get pissed at him for filming their house and putting it on the internet, without their consent, fearing that the local health department could see it and condemn their house. Chris also shared details with Ivy about his incontinence issues, because of course he would, and Bob's constant effort to persuade him to wear protective liners, or as he has called them, butt garments. April. As April dawned, Rocky Shoemaker very nearly pulled the Chandlers, kicking and screaming, out of their vortex of stupidity. Luckily for Ivy, she had already passed all of the Chandlers' tests for truth and honesty, and so was spared most of the brief fallout. Rocky put a temporary hold to Chris's video production, but Ivy convinced him that everything would be fine as long as he deleted the videos from YouTube as soon as she had saved them. Yet, even as one crisis passed, another emerged with a mutual friend introduced Chris to Vanessa Hudgens. Juggling two needy imaginary girlfriends would once again prove challenging for one merely mortal autistic man. With inspiration from Ivy, Chris got a new Quickville.com up, and made progress on Solitude Issue 9. He then created the world's first ever YouTube videos intended for pet crabs. True. Yes. The Hedgehog Boys got back together and hit the road again, and then shit got real. Mid-month, Ivy found out about Chris's two timing ways. The punishment was revolting to say the least. After his humiliating presence, or penance, Chris was given a second chance. Yes. To plan a kick-ass wedding. The result was another Solitude special, complete with an accompanying video. Quick, it's all coming back to me now, and you can't have a wedding without a honeymoon. Ivy specifically asked Chris to draw his duck life-sized, so that he couldn't hide the bend. Needless to say, the leaking of the infamous giant penis comic meant that April ended on a decidedly low note. Chris had to make an explanation video to ease the mind of a traumatized... I'm not even going to say that word because I will literally never be allowed back on YouTube again after that, and had to confess to all of his crimes. Of course, the dastardly trolls pounced on every word. Ivy is real. We are going to be together forever. I can feel the cosmos. Chris helped Ivy put the Vanessa mistake behind them by discussing their future together. Chris assumed that after they got married, she would use her PhD to get a full-time job, but would also do all the cooking when she got home. Jesus Christ, Chris. He would, of course, sit around and draw his comics. He also assumed that Ivy would have no problem if he visited strip clubs, but got very uncomfortable when she asked about her own sexual needs. When the conversation turned to oral sex, he explained his theory about recycling, and indulged her with a notorious demonstrative video. Needless to say, I have not drank Fanta ever since. Chris also ingratiated himself with Ivy's father, speaking him while on the phone twice. He impressed the Coach McGurk look-alike with his stories of being in the Cub Scouts and drawing a comic book for children. May. Throughout the Chandler's trials and tribulations, Ivy remained true and honest. A Chandler family vacation up to Boston to visit Ivy was in the works, but in a fit of righteousness, Rocky brought the Chandlers to the police to sort out the trolls once and for all. The Chandlers were interested in investigating only Joshua Martinez, but Rocky overrode their protests and insisted on checking into Ivy's background as well. Ivy was furious, and after accusing Chris of betraying her, broke up with him. Chris persisted in calling Ivy for 2 days after she broke off their relationship. She and Officer Keno called Bob to have him tell Chris to back off. In Ivy's words, Chris still had no concept of the word no. On the night of the 14th of May, the following was written on Chris's ED page. I have learned that there was a connection between her and a state in Washington where some of you have been lurking, and that she was not found in any public records. It took me a week to recover from the crestfallen emotions, but I am moving on with my life. Epilogue. In July 2009, Chris was fed the rumor that Ivy had committed the S-word by hanging from being restricted from communication, as well as coming to visit me. He tastelessly uploaded Quick Boyfriend as a belated memorial. In November 2009, he described Ivy's death in a giant wall of text in the comic. During the PVCC's assault on Quickville, she was apparently trapped in a collapsing elevator, got the cables tangled around her neck, and was strangled to death. Despite Billy May's best efforts to save her, the page laying all of this out carries a brief dedication in memory of Solitude Girl Ivy O'Neill. On the 19th of April 2010, Chris uploaded or updated the Wikipedia with a page containing various profiles of his gal pals and past sweethearts. Among them was a brief and somewhat ambivalent mention of Ivy. Another online romance, but better with telephone conversations. Ivy and I were entwined with our relationship for about 3 months. It was good. Then later on, when I was talking to a detective in the case of finding my trolls and seeing justice done onto them, he looked into Ivy and her family, found nothing on them. Even her father was, who was a police officer, then in a mental quandary and confusion. I stopped talking to Ivy for a few months. She called me one last time after the time. I still felt confused. Then I hear from Vivian that Ivy committed the S-word by hanging. On the 13th of February 2011, Ivy participated in a Q&A session with the Quickie. In a May 2011 email, Chris mentioned her dismissively saying that elevator gag was only for comic story. She in reality committed the S-word over me. In June 2014, Chris said that except for Casey, all of his former sweethearts were deceptive theoretical exes. This suggests that Chris knew by this point that none of his girlfriends, including Ivy, had been real. Among other things. And, well, here's the first part. It's the moment literally nobody has been waiting for, and, well...
Hi, Ivy. I love you. I can't stop thinking about you. Anyway, for qualifications, I could say, good morning. Wish you a happy day. Or as you go off to sleep, I could say, good night.
Good night.
I'll be in your dreams. I love you. Ivy, Ivy, love you, Ivy, Ivy, Ivy. At least you're not the poisonous kind. Seriously, though, I love you, Ivy. I believe you all around. Keep a happy thought.
So, and that's just like one. And by the way, this is on Chris's IBA Chandler account. By the way, this is the video all the way back in the day that he uploaded again anyway because of the belief this was all going on. Listen, everyone, this girl is my new girlfriend. You all be nice to her, or I will seriously cease efforts on the comic series, and I'm currently on best efforts on that major project. Do not cross me or her, just back off. Sincerely, Christian Weston Chandler. Yeah, this is... And by the way, his channel is still up to this day. The last upload was rolling and trolling as well. And apparently the random access humor video is up there as well. Like, there's just... I mean, of course, I know that this channel did not last for the... But basically, if you want to know just how, like, disturbed a lot of these videos really did start getting, there's things like this. Oh, should I just play all of them? Yeah, let's just do that.
Here's a further little dedication to Ivy's hermit crabs, Crass, and his wife, Champ. We love you. Can't wait to play with you. Aww. Aww.
I mean, first of all, I do apologize. I literally, this is the default setting for like the for the quality of this video. Again, I know this was 2009 stuff on a PlayStation I, but this is just and also again, it's just I know it's like, I know Chris, deep down Chris is probably just trying to be sweet, but the problem is that this is just so it is the way he says it, but it's also just the words he uses is creepy in itself. And then he also did this. You don't know what this is? You will.
Pew pew for Crass and Champ. Pew pew pew. Crass and Champ. Happy Easter.
Yes, ladies, just watch that flubber fly and just bounce up and down. If this is not what like peak masculinity is, then literally I may as well just stop doing YouTube altogether, because I don't. I'm sorry guys, but it's just so friggin' creepy to like watch this and just...
Pista.
And you know, thank you for keeping that short, by the way. I'm glad for that. And by the way, this made Jesus go back in the cave. Oh look, some of these even came out. God almighty, look at all of this. This made Jesus go back in the cave. I am going to use that for... I'm using that for a very long time. I think that's an absolutely great diss right there. That's hilarious. And to be honest, I'm actually not really sure about what else I'm even meant to say at this point, because let's face it, everything else that has been said about it can just about be summarized right there. Chris legitimately thinking that he actually got one, and Chris was so obsessed he was like seriously obsessed with this that he went hog wild and did so much work, but it's just uncomfortable and just kind of makes you feel a little bit bad. And so I feel bad for, well, maybe in some ways I would feel bad for Chris, because he was just being humiliated, because he probably knew this was maybe... Chris probably never thought or considered the idea that this was just too good to be true, but there you are. So, with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this reading of Ivy O'Neill, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.